My beloved brothers and sisters, we begin by praising Allah, Lord of the worlds, the most merciful, the most forgiving, the one who listens to every call and answers every sincere supplication. We ask Allah to bless us with hearts that are soft, tongues that are truthful, and tears that flow out of love and humility before Him. Ameen. Let me begin by asking you a question. Have you ever cried not out of pain or sadness of this world, but from the depth of your soul while calling out to your Maker? Have you ever felt that moment when the world fades away, your knees touch the ground, your heart trembles, your lips quiver, and the only sound that escapes is Ya Allah? My brothers and sisters, that is the power of a tearful dua, a moment of surrender, a moment of ultimate connection with the Lord of the heavens and the earth, a moment that is worth more than gold, more than this entire world and whatever is in it. Dua, a gift from Allah. When your heart breaks, your dua speaks louder. This is something we often overlook. We assume that dua is strongest when it's made with full eloquence, when every word is perfect, when we quote Quran and Hadith and we sound composed. But the reality is the most powerful dua is often the one made when we are anything but composed. When you feel that your chest is heavy, your tears fall before your tongue can even begin to move. When you sit alone, unsure how to even form the sentence, but your heart is screaming for Allah. That's when your dua becomes truly loud in the unseen. It may be silent on earth, but it roars through the heavens. Your pain translates into a supplication unlike any other. And that's a moment Allah never ignores. You see, a broken heart is not always a punishment. Sometimes it's a divine invitation. It's an opportunity to return. It's a window that Allah opens in the wall of your worldly distractions so you can finally see the sky again. Sometimes He allows that heartbreak not to destroy you, but to bring you to your knees so you remember what it feels like to truly rely on Him. Because it's only in those moments when the people you trusted walk away, when the plans you worked hard for collapse, when the health you took for granted fades, when the doors you knocked on remain shut, that you fall back into the arms of the one who was always waiting for you. That's when your dua becomes sincere. That's when it stops being a habit and starts being a lifeline. Many of us only truly taste the sweetness of dua after tasting the bitterness of life. When things go wrong, our hearts suddenly become tender, and that is part of Allah's mercy. He allows us to be wounded so that we can finally recognize that He alone holds the cure. He lets us feel alone so that we long for His companionship. He removes the distractions of comfort so that we are no longer fooled by the illusion of control. Because true dua comes from realizing that nothing else can help you, no one else can save you, and nowhere else can offer you peace. Only Allah. Have you ever noticed that in your most painful moments, the smallest dua can bring relief? You might only whisper, Ya Allah, I don't know what to do, and suddenly there is ease in your heart. That is because your sincerity breaks through the noise. It goes beyond words. Your heart, when it's broken for the sake of Allah, speaks a language that is understood in the heavens. There is a secret between you and your Lord that no one else can interpret. A tear that falls from your eye when your heart is calling out to Him carries more weight than 1,000 well-spoken sentences made in heedlessness. This is why you should never be ashamed of your tears in dua. Do not feel that you are weak when you cry to your Creator. In fact, that is the moment of your greatest strength. Because the strong believer is not the one who always smiles and appears in control. The strong believer is the one who knows how to surrender to Allah when no one else sees. The one who in the darkness of the night falls into sujood and says, Ya Allah, I can't do this on my own. That is the strength that Allah loves. That is the strength that leads to real healing, real peace, real answers. The world teaches us to hide our tears, to keep a strong face, to not show vulnerability. But in front of Allah, your tears are beloved. In fact, among the 7 types of people promised shade on the day of judgment is the one who remembers Allah in private and their eyes overflow with tears. What does this teach us? It teaches us that tears are not something to be ashamed of. They are a gift, a means of connection, a form of worship. When you cry in dua, you are doing something that even angels take notice of. And this crying isn't only for when you are in hardship. Even in moments of joy, when you think of Allah's mercy, your heart can become overwhelmed. You may cry not because you are hurting, but because you feel so unworthy of the blessings you have. That too is a powerful dua, because it comes from a place of humility and gratitude. Sometimes your heart is filled with love for Allah, and that love becomes so intense that your eyes overflow. And that love so pure, so honest, is a form of ibadah that lifts you spiritually in a way that no words can. One of the most beautiful things in Islam is that Allah does not ask for perfection in language or a particular style when you make dua. He asks for sincerity. He doesn't need you to recite something memorized, although that is a blessing. He wants you to speak from the heart, to say what you feel. Even if your voice trembles, even if you pause between every word, even if you repeat yourself, He is listening. And even when you're so overwhelmed that you cannot speak at all, even when your dua is made only in the form of tears and silence, Allah understands. Allah knows what is in your heart before you even know how to describe it. And that's the comfort we should carry with us. The knowledge that our Lord is so merciful, so compassionate, that He accepts the dua of the broken-hearted before they even finish speaking. There's a reason the prophets, peace be upon them, were often seen crying in their supplications. They knew the secret. They knew that tears carry a weight that even long du'as cannot match when they are made without presence of heart. Prophet Yaqub, when he was separated from his son, cried so much that his eyes turned white from sorrow. But what did he say? I complain only to Allah. That's the essence of a tearful dua, not complaining to people, but turning entirely to Allah. Complaining not in protest, but in devotion. Not with anger, but with hope. A person who cries in dua is a person who truly understands the meaning of tawakkul, trust in Allah. Because when you cry, you are not only releasing your pain, you are admitting your dependence. You are saying, I cannot do this without you. And that in itself is a form of worship. That humility, that brokenness is loved by Allah. It brings you closer to Him than any wealth, any position, or any worldly success. When you cry in your prayer, you are joining the ranks of the righteous. You are doing what the best of generations did. You are proving that your heart is still alive. Because a heart that remembers Allah and doesn't shed tears there is a danger that it has become hard. But a heart that melts in the remembrance of Allah is a heart that has hope, a heart that can be transformed, a heart that can be forgiven. The tear that falls in sujood is not weakness, it is strength clothed in submission. It is your soul recognizing its reality. It is you saying, I am not in control and I'm okay with that because my Lord is in control. That is not failure, that is faith. The strongest moments of your life may not be the ones where you overcame trials in front of others, but the moments where you were alone on the prayer mat, asking Allah for strength and shedding tears that only He saw. Those are the moments that shape your destiny. We often want quick results. We cry once and we hope our problems vanish the next day, but sometimes those tears are watering the seeds of something greater. You may not see the result today, but know that Allah sees you, He hears you, He values every single tear, and He is storing those tears for you, either as a means to change your situation in this world or as a reward beyond your imagination in the hereafter. Either way, you never lose by crying to Allah. You never lose when your heart trembles in His remembrance. You never lose when your dua is soaked in sincerity and trust. It's okay if others don't understand your pain. It's okay if no one sees the tears you cry at night, because Allah does. He is the one who responds to the distressed when they call upon Him. He is the one who loves those who turn back to Him in humility. So don't hold back. Let the tears fall. Raise your hands, open your heart and speak to your Lord, not because you're broken, but because you know He's the only one who can truly put you back together. That's where your power lies. Not in hiding your emotion, but in channeling it toward the one who created emotion itself. And remember, every tear that falls in dua is not a sign that your life is falling apart. It may be a sign that it's finally falling into place. Because now you're finally turning to the one you were always meant to turn to, the one who was always waiting, the one who never tires of hearing your voice, the one who loves you more than you can ever imagine. So let your tears flow and let your heart speak. For the power of a tearful dua is not in how much you say it, in how sincerely you say it. And sincerity in the eyes of Allah is everything. Dua is not simply a transaction. It is not just a request, a list, or a wish list that we raise to the heavens. It is far more than that. It is a journey, a means of transformation, a deep personal conversation between you and your Creator that molds you, softens your heart, purifies your intentions, and shapes your character. The beauty of dua is not always in the acceptance of what you asked for. Sometimes the true beauty is in how dua changes you as a person. Sometimes Allah withholds what you want so He can give you what you need. And in that process, you start to grow. You start to realize that it's not just about the result, it's about the becoming. Have you ever noticed how much your dua changes when you're desperate, when you're in pain, when you're at a breaking point? That's when your voice trembles, your words slow down, your heart speaks more than your tongue, and your soul takes the lead. Suddenly, you're no longer focused on the world, you're focused on Him. You're not rushing, you're not thinking about who's watching. You're not worried about sounding perfect. You're real, you're raw, you're vulnerable. And that's exactly what Allah wants. That is what He loves. Because in that moment, you're not just a servant asking for something, you're a servant surrendering to the Master. That is the secret of dua. It refines your soul, it humbles you, it trains your heart to be connected to Allah, to detach from the distractions of this world. You begin to see that some things you thought you needed, you never truly needed at all. You begin to understand that your true strength was never in the answer to your dua, but in the connection you formed while making it. You start to become someone who knows that the process of asking Allah over and over again is in itself an act of worship. And when you get to that level, you don't just want your dua to be accepted, you want to be accepted. So many people become frustrated when their dua isn't answered immediately. But what they don't see is that the moment they made that dua, something inside them started to change. Maybe they began to soften. Maybe they stopped relying on people and started depending on Allah alone. Maybe they began praying more, waking up at night, giving more charity, guarding their tongue, reflecting more deeply. That dua, even before being answered, started giving them purpose. And that purpose gave them peace. That is why some of the most sincere du'as are made in the lowest points of life, because those are the times when our egos fall, when we realize that this world is not in our control, when we taste humility, when we recognize how weak we are. And that recognition, that honesty, is a gate to closeness with Allah. It is not a punishment, it is a wake-up call. A spiritual invitation, because sometimes if we are never tested, we become heedless. We start thinking we can handle life alone. But when something painful happens, suddenly our hearts turn to the one who always had the answers. That is the purpose of dua, not just to fix your circumstances, but to realign your soul. Even if the thing you asked for never comes, you are still a winner, because through that dua, you developed a relationship with your Lord. And that relationship is worth more than anything you asked for. Sometimes Allah delays the response so you can remain in His remembrance longer. And if you only knew what those moments were doing for your heart, you wouldn't want them to end. Dua is not just a request, it's a lifeline. It's how we survive spiritually. It's how we heal. It's how we cope. It's how we stay connected. And it's not just the words you say, it's the tears you shed, the whispers you make, the feelings in your chest that no one else sees. Allah sees all of it. Nothing is hidden from Him. When you cry in dua, you're not alone. You may feel like no one understands what you're going through. You may feel that no one hears you. But the truth is, when a believer raises their hands and a tear rolls down their cheek in the middle of the night, the angels record that moment. They witness it. They honor it. And most importantly, your Lord responds to it with mercy beyond what you can comprehend. There are people who have cried themselves to sleep for years, and those tears were not wasted. Every single drop was witnessed. Every breath you took while weeping in sajda was known. And sometimes Allah doesn't give you what you want immediately because He wants your heart to keep calling out to Him. He wants you to remain close. Because He knows that when your life becomes easy, when your prayers are answered quickly, you may forget, you may drift. So He delays not because He doesn't love you, but because He loves you too much to let you go. That moment when your heart breaks, when your body trembles, when you feel overwhelmed, and the only thing you can say is, Ya Allah, that is one of the most powerful moments of your life. That is a moment when the dunya fades and your soul connects with its origin. That is a moment when you are no longer just someone on earth, you are a soul calling to the heavens, and that connection is sacred. That is when your dua rises, carried by your tears, elevated by your sincerity, wrapped in trust and carried by hope. Some people think that crying in dua is a weakness, that it means you've lost control. But in reality, it is the highest level of control, because you have recognized who you truly are and who Allah truly is. You have realized that you are not self-sufficient, that you are not the owner of your fate, that all power, all strength, all outcomes lie in the hands of your Creator. And in admitting that, you gain a type of strength that the world can never understand, a spiritual strength, a strength that gives you peace even in pain, a strength that makes you smile through tears because you know Allah is with you. Sometimes when you are weeping in dua, your mind is full of fear. What if nothing changes? What if things get worse? What if I'm not worthy of Allah's help? But remember, He is closer to you than your jugular vein. He knows your struggles. He knows the effort you've made. He knows what people have said about you, how they've wronged you, how hard you've tried to remain patient. So when you cry to Him, you are not informing Him of something new. You are turning to the one who already knows and still loves you, still invites you, still tells you, call upon me, I will respond. And when you understand that, your dua begins to change. You stop only asking for outcomes and you start asking for contentment. You ask not just for a job, but for barakah. Not just for marriage, but for peace. Not just for health, but for gratitude. And even if your situation remains the same, your heart no longer does. Because now your heart is full of light, full of tawakkul, full of remembrance. And that is something this world can never take from you. Dua doesn't need an audience. It doesn't need likes, views, or validation. Some of the most powerful du'as are made in secret, in the stillness of the night, when everyone else is asleep, and you are awake, broken, tired, hopeful, and you whisper, Ya Rabb. That whisper shakes the heavens. That whisper is known in the unseen. That whisper is heard by the King of Kings. And even if you think your voice is too small, too weak, too sinful, know that your Lord is too generous to turn you away. He listens not because you're perfect, but because He is perfect. And sometimes when you're making dua with tears streaming down your face, you feel something inside your chest weight being lifted. You haven't even received what you asked for yet, but you already feel lighter. That is the healing power of dua. That is the mercy of simply talking to the one who created you. Sometimes you don't even need an answer, you just need to feel heard. And Allah hears always. Dua is not just something we do when we're in trouble. It is something we do to stay connected, even in good times, even when things are going well. Because the true believer doesn't wait for a calamity to call upon Allah. The true believer makes dua when they wake up, when they travel, when they succeed, when they struggle, when they cry, and when they smile. because dua is not seasonal, it is constant. It is a sign of our dependence and a shield against arrogance. And the beautiful thing is that every dua you make is stored. None are lost. Even if you forget, Allah does not forget. And sometimes He answers you in ways you never expected. You may be praying for something in your worldly life and He gives you peace in your heart instead. You may be asking for a specific outcome and He gives you a better 1 year later. Or He may save your dua for the day of judgment when you need it most. You see, nothing is wasted, nothing is forgotten, nothing is too small or too big for the Lord of the worlds. That's why when you cry in your dua, don't ever feel ashamed. Don't wipe your tears quickly as if they're signs of weakness. Those are marks of sincerity, marks of love, marks of a heart that still feels, a heart that is still alive, a heart that hasn't been hardened by the dunya, and that is a gift. A tear that falls from a place of hope and reliance is worth more than gold, because it is a tear that connects you to the eternal. There is something powerful about silence. In a world where noise dominates, where voices rise and screens glow, where opinions are thrown around like leaves in the wind, silence remains one of the most sincere expressions of the heart. And when that silence is directed toward the heavens, when it is filled with longing, with brokenness, with hope, it becomes louder than anything the ears can hear. A dua made in silence, with the tongue still and the heart trembling, reaches the throne of the Almighty with a force that no shout can ever match, because in silence the soul speaks. And when the soul speaks to its maker, the universe listens. You may have sat in prayer unsure of what to say. Perhaps the words couldn't come out. Perhaps your emotions were too overwhelming. Your chest felt heavy, your lips remained sealed, and your eyes welled up with tears. You thought, maybe my dua is weak because I'm not saying anything. Maybe I need to verbalize it. Maybe I'm not being heard. But what you don't realize is that the sound of your silent dua was already echoing in the heavens. Your pain was already known. Your struggle was already seen. The one who hears what the hearts whisper and knows what the souls hide, he doesn't need volume to respond. He only needs sincerity. The silent dua is often the most genuine because it's not crafted, it's not polished, it's not wrapped in beautiful phrases or adorned with poetic words. It's real, it's raw, it's deeply personal. And that makes it more beautiful in the sight of your Lord than anything you could have recited. When the heart is too overwhelmed to speak, but still lifts itself in yearning, that dua is powerful. When the tears fall and no one around you hears your voice, but the angels in the skies record your emotion, that dua is beloved, because it came from the core of who you are. It came from a place that words cannot reach. And what comes from the heart touches the divine in ways that human language never can. There are people who have made dua in silence for years, sitting alone in the darkness of the night, or the stillness of a crowded masjid, or the back of a taxi, or the hallway of a hospital. They didn't raise their voices, they didn't explain their pain to others, but they turned their gaze inward and then upward. They whispered with their hearts. They connected through silence. And those moments were so pure, so untainted, so sincere that the heavens shook with compassion. The dua may not have had sound, but it had a soul. When you're in sujood and you find yourself speechless, let your silence be your dua. Let your breathing become your words. Let the rhythm of your heart become your expression. Because you're not just communicating with anyone, you are communicating with the one who created every cell in your body, the one who knows how your heart feels, even when you don't know how to describe it, the one who understands your silence better than you understand your own speech. When your thoughts are tangled and your emotions are heavy, but you still turn to Him, that is a sign of faith. That is a sign of a heart that believes even when the tongue is tired. So don't be ashamed of your silent dua. Don't think it's weak. Don't assume it's unnoticed. It may be the most powerful act of worship you've ever performed. The Prophet of old would often retreat in silence, reflecting, praying, weeping and hoping. And that silence was filled with dua, the kind that is unseen to others but deeply felt in the unseen realm. Because sometimes it's not about being heard by people, it's about being heard by the one who knows you better than you know yourself. And that happens even when you utter nothing at all. Your tears are not a weakness. They are not signs of defeat. In fact, sometimes those tears in dua are more eloquent than 1,000 words, because your Lord knows what caused them. He knows what broke you. He knows what you're carrying. When you sit alone with tears rolling down your cheeks and you can't even describe why you're crying, that moment is sacred. That is not just emotion, that is dua. Those tears are a language of sincerity, a language of love, a language of hope and pain woven together. And that language is not lost on the one who responds to every cry. When words fail and tears fall, that's when your sincerity becomes undeniable. You may not know how to express what you're going through. You may not know how to ask for help. But your tears carry the weight of what your heart is holding. And Allah knows how heavy that burden is. He sees every tear. He counts them. He records them. And He rewards you for them. Because those are not just tears, they are droplets of trust, signs that you still believe, proof that your heart is still alive. People often hide their tears. They wipe them away quickly, fearing judgment. But the angels don't look at your tears with pity. They look at them with honor. Because in those moments, you are not complaining to the world, you are confiding in your Lord, you are returning to the source of mercy. And when you return to Him sincerely, He never turns you away. He listens, He cares, He responds in ways you cannot imagine. It is important to remember that dua is not just a speech. It is not just about articulation. It is about connection. Sometimes your loudest and most confident dua is less sincere than the quiet sob you let out when no one is watching. Because dua is judged not by sound but by soul. It is not weighed by how many people say Ameen after you, is weighed by how much trust you placed in your Creator. And when you cry to Him, you're showing that trust. You're showing that you believe He can fix what's broken, heal what hurts, mend what's torn, and calm what's shaken. Tears have a strange power in the spiritual world. They wash the soul, they bring tranquility, they lower the ego, they remind you that you're a servant, that you don't control everything, that you need your Lord. And that neediness is beautiful. It is not something to hide. It is something to embrace, because your Creator loves when you return to Him in need. He loves when you come to Him broken, knowing that He alone can make you whole. And those tears are signs of that recognition. Some of the greatest moments in life are not when you're standing tall, but when you're bowed down in sajda, tears dripping onto the ground, heart beating in sync with remembrance, and your soul clinging to the hope that your Lord is listening. And He always is, even when you're silent, even when you don't feel strong, even when the world seems dark, your Lord is near. He is closer than you think. He hears your silence, He sees your tears, and He knows the weight of your unspoken words. There are times when people around you won't understand what you're going through. You might try to explain, but they won't truly grasp it. That's when you learn the value of turning to the one who already knows. You stop expecting validation from others. You stop seeking sympathy because your heart has found a better place to cry, a safer place to pour out its sorrow. And that place is in sujood, in dua, in silence, in tears. In the space between your chest and your Lord where no one else has access. That is not just emotion, that is dua. Those tears are a language of sincerity, a language of love, a language of hope and pain woven together. And that language is not lost on the one who responds to every cry. When words fail and tears fall, that's when your sincerity becomes undeniable. You may not know how to express what you're going through. You may not know how to ask for help, but your tears carry the weight of what your heart is holding. And Allah knows how heavy that burden is. He sees every tear. He counts them. He records them. And He rewards you for them. Because those are not just tears, they are droplets of trust. Signs that you still believe. Proof that your heart is still alive. People often hide their tears. They wipe them away quickly, fearing judgment. But the angels don't look at your tears with pity. They look at them with honor. Because in those moments, you are not complaining to the world, you are confiding in your Lord. You are returning to the source of mercy. And when you return to Him sincerely, He never turns you away. He listens. He cares. He responds in ways you cannot imagine. It is important to remember that dua is not just a speech. It is not just about articulation. It is about connection. Sometimes your loudest and most confident dua is less sincere than the quiet sob you let out when no one is watching. Because dua is judged not by sound but by soul. It is not weighed by how many people say Ameen after you. It is weighed by how much trust you placed in your Creator. And when you cry to Him, you're showing that trust. You're showing that you believe He can fix what's broken, heal what hurts, mend what's torn, and calm what's shaken. Tears have a strange power in the spiritual world. They wash the soul. They bring tranquility. They lower the ego. They remind you that you're a servant, that you don't control everything, that you need your Lord. And that neediness is beautiful. It is not something to hide. It is something to embrace, because your Creator loves when you return to Him in need. He loves when you come to Him broken, knowing that He alone can make you whole. And those tears are signs of that recognition. Some of the greatest moments in life are not when you're standing tall, but when you're bowed down in sajda, tears dripping onto the ground, heart beating in sync with remembrance, and your soul clinging to the hope that your Lord is listening, and He is. He always is. Even when you're silent, even when you don't feel strong, even when the world seems dark, your Lord is near. He is closer than you think. He hears your silence. He sees your tears. And He knows the weight of your unspoken words. There are times when people around you won't understand what you're going through. You might try to explain, but they won't truly grasp it. That's when you learn the value of turning to the one who already knows. You stop expecting validation from others. You stop seeking sympathy because your heart has found a better place to cry, a safer place to pour out its sorrow. And that place is in sujood, in dua, in silence, in tears, in the space between your chest and your Lord where no one else has access.